So we were just gifted this beautiful orchid yesterday, and I have this other orchid that was flowering a couple of months ago, and it's ready to be repotted. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to easily repot your orchids. And the first thing to note, the best time to do so is after they've finished flowering. Really, most of us are growing our orchids indoors all year long, so whenever they've finished flowering, you can generally safely transplant them to the next size container. Could be any time during the year. The second thing that you're going to want to note is that right here I have this orchid in a 3.5-inch container, and you never want to repot your orchid into a significantly larger pot. If you are potting up into the next size container, you just want to transplant it to a slightly larger pot. So in this case, I'm going to be going from this 3.5-inch to like a 4-inch pot. But if you're content with the size of your plant and you want to keep it in that same size container, you can absolutely follow along and do just that. Simply replanting it with new potting mix is going to be great for providing it more nutrients that it needs. So generally when we're growing orchids, there's two main recommendations. You can grow them in sphagnum moss or orchid bark, or a combination of both. And that's the way that I like to do. So I'm gonna be using 50% sphagnum moss, 50% orchid bark, combining them together to create a nice substrate for my orchid to be growing in. If you don't have any on hand, check the description below. You'll find links to these great products that you can get shipped directly to your door. So now we're gonna just gently pop it right out of the container. Give it a nice little squeeze. And it will generally fall apart just like that, and that's totally fine. Here you can see this mix is mainly made of orchid bark. There looks like potentially some perlite in here as well. And you can see the roots are not super big, and that's pretty typical. While we're doing this, if you see any dead leaves or anything that should be removed, you can just cut it off at this time. Sometimes there might be some roots that have died, and that's normal. Now, as you could tell, this was not super well rooted in that container, but it's been in that pot for the last couple of years, so this is a great opportunity to refresh that potting mix like I was mentioning. Honestly, I would probably be best off just putting it right back in that container, but I'm going to replant it into a slightly larger container anyway. So now I'm going to take my orchid bark and my sphagnum moss. You're going to want to really break that sphagnum moss up. And then just mix it together. And I like to use the combination of them both because the orchid bark provides a nice drainage ability. The sphagnum moss really helps retain that moisture, and it also helps the orchid to stay a little bit more upright. So that looks about as good as it's going to get. Then I will take some water. You could do this in a bowl, like a big salad bowl would be great. Really just trying to get it all nice and evenly moist. I just want to quickly check to make sure I have enough. And that looks pretty good. So I'm going to start with about halfway. Just kind of make a nice little divot. And then we're going to just gently situate those roots in here. And just hold it up. We really want those roots to kind of spread nicely. And then we will just gently go around the sides, adding in our growing material. And you can gently pack it down, but don't press so hard that you jam the roots. And I'm going to put a little bit of that old orchid bark on top to give it a little bit more structure, because this guy has a tendency to get a little bit flopping over. And then I will just take it and slip it into my cash pot, and it looks pretty nice. Now it's ready to start growing some more. So next time your orchids finish flowering, it might be a good opportunity to refresh, give them new potting mix, maybe transplant them to the next size container. They'll absolutely thank you for that little bit of TLC. It's super easy to do, and now you know exactly how to do it. Thanks for joining me here on Plant Vibrations. I'll catch you later. Ciao.